Have you ever thought of combining your love of strategy and tactics games with the thrill of deck building? Cards RPG The Misty Battlefield is an upcoming tactical RPG that does just that. Developed by Acquire, who also assisted in the development of the Octopath Traveler series, which I was actually surprised to find out, Cards RPG offers a unique twist on the classical tactical RPG formula. Cards RPG is the ultimate deck building RPG for all us strategy nerds, where not only does the movement of your troops matter, but also the build of your deck as you advance in the game. What I think makes this game so addicting is the masterful mix of these two aspects. Enemy units are weak to certain unit types, so attacking the enemies with these certain units can allow you to inflict a break and stun them for a turn. But if you haven't built your deck well, you may not have enough attacks in your first hand to inflict the break, forcing you to play defensively until you have the cards that you need. A well-crafted deck, on the other hand, can all but assure victory with a good mix of attack, defense, utility, and buff cards. The challenge then is in building a deck that complements each unit and your own playstyle. Your deck is shared amongst all your units, so building a deck focused on ranged attackers, for instance, could weaken the rest of your units, but make your ranged attackers much more effective. Some of these ranged cards can't even be used by other units, while others can, but only count as basic attacks. You could then build your deck with a melee attacker focus instead, making your frontliners very effective at using the break mechanic on your enemies, but then when you face a unit that you can't inflict the break on, you will find yourself taking a ton of hits thanks to the lack of defensive cards in your deck. You could instead focus on building a defensive deck, or take a focus on utility cards, or even build around various buff cards. For me, I found using a mostly balanced deck seemed to do well for the demo at least, but I'm sure I would get much more creative in the full game. The break system I mentioned certainly adds to the complexity too, tempting you to lean into that attack build. You see, each attack with the enemy's weakness will give you one break point, and once you reach 3, the enemy gets stunned for a turn. These points carry over too, not only from round to round in the current fight, but also into your next unit's turn as well. So once you get the hang of which units are weak to which weapon types, you can really take advantage of the break mechanic with an attack-heavy deck. As long as in each round of combat you have at least 3 attack cards, you can effectively stun lock the enemy and easily take them out. But then there is the fog mechanic on the battlefield, which throws a wrench into this. On the battle map, you can only see the enemy types when the enemies actually come into your sight range. This means you can be taken off guard by an enemy your unit can't break, and this typically results in a much tougher fight. Speaking of the battle map, you also have to carefully consider the placement of your troops on the battlefield as well as the building of your deck. If an enemy attacks you, they get a free turn in before you can react, which usually means taking an unguarded hit, which can really do some damage. So it pays to wait until you have a couple of units in range before advancing on an enemy so that you can make sure they go down and not get that free hit off on you. See, this free hit goes both ways, so if you attack first, then you get your turn first, allowing you to guard appropriately or break your enemy. Having a second unit ready to attack can make sure that your first unit doesn't take the hit if the enemy unit is still up when the enemy's turn comes around. In order to face these challenges on the battlefield, deck building will take a key role. While it may be tempting to take every attack card that you find, this is often not the best strategy. It's a good idea to keep an eye on how many of each card type you have, as you can have a deck size of up to 50 cards. This means that if you have only 5 defensive cards, you'll only have one come up about every 10 cards you draw during a battle. So it pays to try and keep your deck a bit more balanced or even smaller, so that you get the odds that you want for your card draws. Other than attack and defense cards, there are also, as I mentioned earlier, buff, heal, debuff, and utility cards to consider too. In order to build your deck, you'll need to defeat enemies and visit facilities on the battle map to gain a choice of 1 out of 3 cards to add to your deck each time. These cards are randomly selected, but seem to be from a limited variety based on the map that you're playing, so if you battle enough enemies and visit enough facilities, you're likely to see all the cards available on that particular map. There are also facilities on the battlefields that allow you to remove cards from your deck as well. This allows you to narrow the focus of your deck and remove older cards that perhaps you aren't using anymore. For instance, some battles may feature a lot of enemies that can poison you, making a pickup of the antidote card a great counter. Maybe you even pick up a few of these to make sure they're available when you actually need them. But then on later maps, the extra antidotes may be coming up too often instead of more powerful cards. So you find a discard facility and remove an extra antidote card. You will also be forced to discard 3 cards at the end of each map too, which can also be a good way to get rid of cards that are only temporarily useful. I should also mention really quickly here that there is a skill tree for your army that provides various passive buffs that you can unlock with strategist points gained from leveling up. In addition to these though, you can also unlock new units in this skill tree and even make some very powerful cards come up more often as a choice when gaining new cards. So depending on how you want to play, you may want to unlock nodes on the tree going towards particular units or cards that you'd like to use. Now, in each actual fight between units, you'll begin by having 5 cards drawn for your first turn, but then every turn after that you'll automatically draw cards until you have 8 total in your hand. So with that in mind, even how many cards you choose to play can help. Normally you can only play 3 cards per round, however some cards allow you to increase this limit. This can help you use more buffs or some extra shields while still dealing some decent damage. However, it can be beneficial to play less than 3 cards if, for instance, you're saving up for a big power combo or need to hang on to some extra defense cards for the next round, especially if the enemy themselves is just defending on this round. Finally, you can also just discard cards from your hand as well, which can be useful for getting rid of cards that don't help you in your current situation and allow you to draw more cards on the next round, giving you a better chance to draw the cards that you need. The cards that you pick and how many you decide to have in your deck will have a huge impact on how effective your units will be. I tend to really enjoy ranged units when playing tactics games, so on my second playthrough of the demo, I focused a lot on ranged attacks and even picked up the second ranged character. Ranged attacks can be a lot of fun in Cards RPG because the enemy, as you might expect, can't fight back against these attacks unless they are also ranged. So having some of those range specific cards can really help do a lot of damage and weaken enemies before moving in with your melee units. You only get 1 attack round instead of the normal 3 for a ranged attack in most cases, so you can't usually kill an enemy outright, but with the right ranged cards, you can do half or more of the enemy's HP and damage. Now this build can limit your melee attackers, since some of these ranged cards will just be dead cards for them. However, my focus on ranged worked out really epically in one boss fight in particular. The bosses in this game can be brutal, coming with much more HP, hitting much harder, and combating them is 5 rounds each time instead of the normal 3. Attacking them with units that can break them is a must, and making sure all your units are able to attack them on the same round is important too. In this particular fight, I had done all these things, but the boss was relentless, taking out everyone but my archer. Even my archer barely survived a direct assault from the boss. But thanks to my choice of ranged cards, I had just enough power to take him down at the last moment. You see, one advantage of ranged attacks is that you only draw attack cards for them. This means that you're definitely attacking 3 times, and if your deck is heavy and more powerful ranged attack cards, you're likely to draw several of them. This is just one example of how a build might work in Cards RPG, but I'm sure there are many more to be explored. So while the graphics and story of Cards RPG I would say are limited, the gameplay offers a unique take on the tactical RPG genre that I think fans of the genre can appreciate as a break from the norm. The deck building aspect combined with the turn-based tactics is something that we don't see a lot of in the genre, and I think the two fit very well together, particularly here in Cards RPG, where I think it was done rather well. I can see there being a lot of build crafting based on which units players choose to use and the decks they equip them with. The Cards RPG demo is available on both Steam and the Nintendo eShop right now, and I'd encourage you to try it out as it only takes about 3 hours to play the demo. The full release is scheduled for later this month on May 22nd. Now, for more strategy RPG content, you can watch this video right here. Remember to like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and keep on gaming.